when a woman feels that she still has access to you at any moment. There is no urgency, no fear, and no emotional tension. Attraction cannot survive in an environment where everything feels guaranteed. This is why walking away with strength is not a tactic. It is a reflection of self-respect. The moment you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop trying to convince her of your value, something powerful happens inside her psychology. The safety she felt in knowing you are always there disappears, and in its place grows uncertainty. Human beings do not crave what is certain, they crave what they fear losing. When you walk away calmly without anger, bitterness, or drama, you communicate a message louder than words ever could. I know my value, and I don't negotiate attraction. Most men make the fatal mistake of believing that love is proven through persistence. They think if they just send one more message, have one more emotional conversation, or show how much they care, she will suddenly realize what she's losing. In reality, this behavior does the opposite. It reinforces her belief that she made the right decision. Chasing signals desperation, and desperation signals low value. When you chase, you tell her subconsciously that you don't believe you can do better, that your happiness depends on her approval, and that you are afraid to be alone. Attraction cannot exist where fear dominates. Strength, on the other hand, creates polarity. Strength says, I want you, but I don't need you. That difference changes everything. Walking away with strength means you don't announce your exit. You don't give long speeches about how she'll regret losing you. You don't threaten, manipulate, or guilt her. You simply remove your attention, your energy, and your emotional availability. This absence is what begins to work on her mind. At first, she may feel relief. She might even feel empowered, thinking she has regained control. But as days turn into silence, something shifts. The emotional safety net she subconsciously relied on knowing you were still there vanishes. Her mind begins to fill the silence with memories. Not the arguments, not the tension, but the moments where she felt feminine, desired, protected, and emotionally alive with you. This is because emotions are not logical. The conscious mind may justify leaving, but the subconscious mind operates on feelings. When you are gone, her subconscious begins to associate your absence with loss. She starts wondering why you didn't chase, why you didn't beg, why you didn't fight harder. This confusion triggers curiosity, and curiosity is the gateway back to attraction. Women are emotionally driven. When something doesn't align with their expectations, they replay it over and over in their mind. Your calm exit disrupts her emotional script. Fear of loss is one of the strongest motivators in human behavior. It's why people cling to bad investments, toxic relationships, and unhealthy habits. When you remove yourself, you create emotional risk. She now has to confront the possibility that you may truly move on, that another woman might receive the attention, love, and leadership she once had. This thought is far more painful than any argument you could ever win. You cannot logically convince someone to feel attraction, but you can create the conditions where their emotions begin to work against them. Walking away with strength also restores polarity. In most failing relationships, polarity dies because the man becomes reactive, emotionally unstable, or approval seeking. He stops leading and starts following her emotional state. When you walk away grounded and centered, you reestablish masculine energy. Masculinity is not loud. It is not aggressive. It is calm, decisive, and unmoved by emotional chaos. This energy is deeply attractive because it represents certainty and stability. When she sees that you are not shaken by the breakup, not collapsing, not spiraling, it challenges her perception of power. She expected you to crumble. Instead, you stood tall. Silence, when combined with strength, becomes a mirror. In that mirror, she sees her own emotions reflected back at her. Without your constant presence to distract her, she has to sit with the consequences of her decision. This is when doubt creeps in. Doubt turns into regret. Regret turns into longing. But this process only happens when you do not interfere. The moment you break silence to check in, to just see how she's doing, you reset the emotional clock. You reassure her that she still has you. You remove the risk, and without risk, there is no attraction. Walking away does not mean you stop caring. It means you care enough about yourself to not abandon your self-respect. It means you understand that attraction is not negotiated. You don't punish her with silence. You gift her space. And in that space, her emotions grow louder. She begins to compare. She goes on dates with other men and realizes something is missing. They may give her attention, but they lack depth. They may chase her, but they don't challenge her. This comparison quietly works in your favor because you didn't lower yourself to compete. Over time, your absence becomes heavy. She remembers how you used to make decisions, how you stayed calm during chaos, how you didn't need constant reassurance. She starts questioning whether she can find that again. This is where fear intensifies. Fear that she let go of something rare. Fear that he let go of something rare. Fear that her pride made her choose comfort over connection. Fear that you were building a life without her. And that fear creates urgency. The key is that you do not wait for her. You don't put your life on pause. You redirect your energy into your mission, your health, your growth, and your purpose. This is not an act. This is transformation. When you walk away, you are not trying to get her back. You're choosing yourself. Ironically, this is what makes her want you back. Women don't return to men who wait. They return to men who move forward. Strength is attractive because it signals abundance. A man who can walk away calmly communicates that he believes he has options. Even if he doesn't, the belief alone changes his behavior, posture, and energy. This energy is felt. It cannot be faked for long. When she senses that you are no longer emotionally dependent on her validation, she feels the shift. She no longer feels like the prize. The balance of power begins to tilt. Eventually, she reaches a crossroads. She can either accept the loss and live with the regret, or she can reach out and test the waters. This is when messages like, "Hey, I was just thinking about you," appear, not because she suddenly became logical, but because the emotional pressure became too much to ignore. She doesn't come back because you convinced her. She comes back because your absence forced her to feel what your presence once gave her, and she realizes she took it for granted. Walking away with strength is not manipulation. It is alignment. Alignment with your value, your dignity, and your masculine core. You are not walking away to punish her. You are walking away to punish her. You are walking away because you refuse to chase someone who chose to leave. That choice alone separates you from the majority of men, and that separation is what creates desire. The moment you stop reacting emotionally, the entire dynamic between you and her begins to shift. Emotional self-control is one of the rarest and most powerful traits a man can possess, because most people live as slaves to their feelings. When you no longer allow her words, silence, or mixed signals to dictate your emotional state, you immediately stand apart from every other man she encounters. You become calm where others are reactive, steady where others are needy, and grounded where others seek validation. This is not about suppressing emotion, it's about mastering it. And mastery is deeply attractive. Most breakups escalate because the man loses emotional control. He pleads, argues, over-explains, or tries to extract clarity from someone who is emotionally checked out. Each emotional outburst pushes her further away because it places her in a position of power. She becomes the judge of your worth, the regulator of your mood, the source of your stability. When you give someone that level of control over you, attraction collapses. Women are not attracted to men they feel responsible for emotionally. They are attracted to men who can hold their own center regardless of external circumstances. When you remain emotionally self-controlled, something subtle but profound happens. She no longer knows how to read you. Predictability kills attraction. When she expects you to react with anger, sadness, or desperation, and you don't, it creates cognitive dissonance. Her mind can't easily categorize you anymore. She wonders why you're so calm. She questions whether you ever cared. She becomes curious about what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and most importantly, whether she still has an emotional impact on you. Curiosity is the spark that reignites desire. Emotional self-control communicates confidence without a single word. It says, "I trust myself to handle whatever comes." Confidence is not bravado or arrogance. It is quiet certainty. When she senses that you are not destabilized by the breakup, her internal narrative starts to unravel. She expected tears, emotional speeches, or repeated attempts to reconnect. Instead, she sees composure. This forces her to reassess who held the real power in the relationship. Power is not in who cares less, it's in who remains centered. Self-control also prevents you from saying things you can never take back. In emotionally charged moments, words are often used as weapons. Men who lack control try to force emotional responses through guilt, shame, or logic. These tactics may produce short-term engagement, but they permanently damage attraction. When you stay calm, you preserve your dignity. Dignity is magnetic. It leaves an impression that lingers long after emotions cool down. She remembers how you handled the ending more than the reasons it ended. Another critical aspect of emotional self control is restraint. You don't feel the need to explain yourself endlessly. You don't defend your character. You don't correct every misunderstanding. This restraint signals self belief. People who know their value don't argue for it. When she sees that you are not trying to control her perception of you, it paradoxically makes her question her own judgment. She begins to wonder if she misjudged you, if she understands to manage your strength, if she assumes you would fall apart without her. This is where emotional control becomes irreplaceable. Every man can be charming when things are going well. Very few can remain composed when things fall apart. How you handle loss reveals who you truly are. When you demonstrate that you can absorb emotional impact without collapsing, you become rare. Rarity creates value. Value creates desire. She starts comparing you to other men who emotionally unravel, who vent, complain, and chase. The contrast works in your favor without you doing anything. Emotional self control also allows space for her emotions to surface. When you react emotionally, you drown out her feelings with your own. When you stay grounded, her emotions have room to rise. She begins to feel the loss more intensely because there is no emotional chaos to distract her. Silence combined with composure forces introspection. She feels the weight of her decision more deeply because you are not fighting it. Resistance creates tension, but calm acceptance creates reflection. There's also a deeper psychological layer at play. When a woman sees that she cannot easily trigger you emotionally, she subconsciously assigns you higher status. High status individuals are not easily shaken. They respond, they don't react. This distinction is crucial. Reaction is impulsive and emotional. Response is deliberate and controlled. When you respond instead of react, you demonstrate leadership. Leadership is attractive because it implies safety and direction. Even when the relationship ends, those traits don't disappear, they become more visible. Emotional self control protects you from becoming trapped in the past. Instead of replaying conversations, analyzing texts, or obsessing over what went wrong, you channel your energy into forward movement. This shift is felt. Energy does not lie. When you focus on growth rather than loss, your entire presence changes. She senses that you are evolving while she remains emotionally stuck. This reversal destabilizes her. She expected you to be the one struggling. Instead, you're the one adapting. Another overlooked element is mystery. When you don't overshare your pain or broadcast your emotional state, you create mystery. Mystery fuels imagination. Imagination fuels desire. She fills in the blanks with her own assumptions, often projecting strength, confidence, and detachment onto you. These projections intensify attraction. The less you explain, the more she wonders. The more she wonders, the more she wonders, the more emotionally invested she becomes. Emotional self control also prevents you from idealizing her. When you remain centered, you see her as a human being, not a source of validation. This shifts your internal dynamic from scarcity to abundance. You no longer act as if losing her is the end of your world. You recognize that connection is valuable, but not at the expense of your identity. This mindset is transformative. It changes how you walk, speak, and carry yourself. She notices this change even if she can't articulate it. Over time, your emotional consistency becomes a reference point in her mind. When she experiences emotional volatility elsewhere, men who are jealous, insecure, or reactive, she remembers how steady you were. Memory is selective. He remembers how steady you were. Memory is selective. She recalls how safe she felt in your presence, how you didn't escalate drama, how you remained calm under pressure. This emotional contrast grows stronger with time. What once felt ordinary now feels rare. Eventually, she may test you. She might reach out casually, send a vague message, or try to provoke an emotional response. This is not accidental. It's an unconscious attempt to regain emotional control. If you respond calmly and without neediness, the dynamic deepens. She realizes that she no longer has power over your emotions, and that realization is unsettling. People value what they cannot easily control. Emotional self-control does not mean emotional coldness. It means emotional maturity. You feel deeply, but you choose not to act impulsively. You honor your emotions without letting them dictate your behavior. This balance is what makes you irreplaceable. She may meet other men, but she will struggle to find someone who embodies strength and sensitivity in equal measure. Real attraction is never resurrected through promises, apologies, or emotional speeches. It is reborn through visible, undeniable transformation. When a woman leaves, she often does so believing that you will remain the same while she moves on. She assumes your life will stall, that your identity was tied to her presence, and that your value peaked within the relationship. This belief gives her emotional comfort. It reassures her that leaving was safe. The moment that belief collapses is the moment regret begins. Becoming the man she regrets losing is not about revenge, flexing, or proving a point. It is about alignment, aligning your daily actions with the highest version of yourself. When you start upgrading your body, your mindset, your purpose, and your lifestyle, you stop operating from loss and start operating from growth. This shift is felt long before it is seen. Your energy changes, your posture changes, your voice changes. You no longer move like a man seeking approval. You move like a man building a future. Most men misunderstand what women regret losing. They think it's attention, validation, or comfort. In reality, women regret losing emotional leadership. They regret losing a man who made them feel safe, desired, and inspired at the same time. When you improve yourself after the breakup, not in desperation, but in discipline, you embody that leadership more strongly than ever. She begins to sense that the man she left no longer exists, and the man standing now is someone she may never have access to again. Growth after loss creates a psychological shock. When she sees you healthier, more focused, more socially connected, and more purpose-driven, it disrupts her narrative. She expected decline. Instead, she witnesses expansion. This creates cognitive dissonance. Her mind struggles to reconcile the image she had of you with the reality you now present. Cognitive dissonance is uncomfortable, and people seek to resolve it emotionally. Often that resolution comes in the form of regret. The most powerful part of becoming the man she regrets losing is that you do it without involving her. You don't announce your progress. You don't seek her validation. You don't send updates or indirect messages. You let the world reflect your growth naturally. This restraint magnifies the effect. When she hears about you through others, sees you briefly, or stumbles across your presence indirectly, the impact is far greater. It feels real, not staged. As you improve, your standards rise. You no longer tolerate disrespect, inconsistency, or emotional games. This internal shift is crucial. Regret is born when someone realizes they no longer qualify for the access they once had. When she senses that your boundaries are firmer and your expectations higher, she begins to question whether she could meet the version of you that now exists. That fear is destabilizing. It flips the dynamic completely. Becoming better also changes how you view the past relationship. Instead of romanticizing it, you see it clearly. You recognize where you compromised too much, where you abandoned your mission, and where you tolerated less than you deserved. This clarity frees you emotionally. Freedom is attractive. People are drawn to those who are not trapped by their past. When she feels that you are no longer emotionally anchored to what was, she feels the weight of what she lost. There is also a biological component at play. Physical transformation signals vitality, discipline, and self-respect. When you take care of your body, you project strength and competence. These traits trigger attraction on a primal level. She may not consciously analyze why you feel different, but her body responds before her mind does. Attraction is not logical, it is instinctive. When you embody strength, her instincts respond. Purpose is the cornerstone of this transformation. A man with direction is magnetic. When your life revolves around a mission bigger than any relationship, you become centered. You no longer cling. You choose. This shift is profound. Women do not want to be the center of a man's universe. They want to be invited into a universe that is already expanding. When she realizes that you are building something meaningful and that she is no longer part of it, regret deepens. Social proof amplifies everything. As your confidence grows, people respond differently to you. Opportunities increase, your social circle expands. This is not coincidence, it is cause and effect. Confidence attracts collaboration. When she sees that others respect you, enjoy your presence, and value your leadership, she reevaluates her decision. Social validation reinforces perceived value. What once felt familiar now feels rare. Becoming the man she regrets losing also means emotional maturity. You no longer blame her. You no longer carry resentment. You take responsibility for your part and move forward. This maturity is disarming. It removes drama from the equation. When she senses that you are not angry, bitter, or seeking closure, she feels exposed. There is nothing to push against, no villain to justify her decision. just a man who grew. Over time, her curiosity intensifies. She wonders how you changed so much. She questions whether she contributed to your growth by leaving or whether she simply misjudged you. This internal dialogue creates emotional pull. Regret is not loud at first. It is quiet and persistent. It shows up in late night thoughts, in comparisons with new men, in moments of loneliness. She begins to realize that what she lost was not just a relationship, but access to a version of you that is no longer available by default. The irony is that as you become the man she regrets losing, you may no longer want her back. Growth changes desire. When you elevate your life, your emotional attachments shift. You are no longer driven by fear of loss, but by alignment with your values. This independence is the final trigger. People want what they feel slipping beyond their reach. When she senses that reconciliation is no longer guaranteed, urgency appears. Becoming better is not about winning her back. It is about winning her back. It is about winning yourself back. The moment you reclaim your identity, your standards, and your purpose, you stop negotiating your worth. That is when regret takes root. Not because you try to make her feel it, but because your evolution forced her to confront what she walked away from. When she comes back, the most important moment is not the breakup. It's the reunion. This is where most men undo everything they've built. They mistake contact for commitment, words for intention, and nostalgia for genuine change. Letting her earn her way back is not about ego or punishment. It's about restoring balance, respect, and emotional safety. Without this step, even if she returns, the same dynamic that caused the breakup will repeat itself. Respect cannot be demanded. It is rebuilt through behavior. When a woman leaves, she unconsciously devalues the man she walked away from. If that man immediately accepts her back without discernment, it confirms her belief that she can leave and return without consequence. This erodes attraction further. Letting her earn her way back means you do not hand her the same level of access she once had simply because she reappeared. Access is given in proportion to effort and consistency. The first test is your emotional restraint. When she reaches out, there is often excitement, relief, and hope. Those emotions are natural, but acting on them impulsively sends the wrong message. If you rush to respond, overshare, or try to lock her down, you communicate scarcity. Scarcity lowers perceived value. Calm, measured responses communicate abundance. You're not afraid of losing her again because your life is full and grounded. This composure immediately shifts the power dynamic. Letting her earn her way back also means you don't seek explanations or closure. Most men want to rehash the past, to understand why she left, to hear apologies. This instinct comes from a desire for emotional reassurance. But reassurance does not rebuild attraction, respect does. When you avoid interrogating the past and instead focus on observing her present behavior, you show emotional maturity. You are not clinging to old wounds. You are assessing current reality. Consistency is the currency of trust. Words are cheap. Anyone can say they miss you, that they made a mistake, that they've changed. What matters is whether her actions align with those words over time. Does she initiate contact? Does she follow through? Does she respect your boundaries? Does she invest emotionally and practically? Letting her earn her way back means you observe without rushing to reward minimal effort. Patience here is crucial. This process also forces her to confront her own emotions. When reconciliation is not immediate, she feels uncertainty. That uncertainty creates emotional investment. She begins to reflect on her behavior, her choices, and her priorities. She becomes more self-aware because she has something to lose. Emotional growth rarely happens in comfort. It happens when effort is required. By not rescuing her from discomfort, you allow genuine change to take place. Boundaries are the backbone of this dynamic. Boundaries are not ultimatums or threats. They are standards you live by. When you maintain your routine, your goals, and your self-respect regardless of her presence, you communicate that your life is not on hold. She must fit into your world, not the other way around. This is not dominance, it is balance. Relationships thrive when both people feel chosen, not needed. Letting her earn her way back also heals the imbalance created by the breakup. During the separation, she had the upper hand emotionally. She made the decision to leave. Now, the dynamic reverses naturally when you do not chase reconciliation. You are open, but not attached. Available, but not desperate. This neutrality is powerful. It removes pressure while maintaining standards. She feels the difference immediately. Another critical element is emotional pacing. You don't dive back into deep emotional intimacy right away. You rebuild slowly, allowing trust and attraction to grow organically. This pacing prevents emotional whiplash and protects you from repeating old patterns. It also allows her to demonstrate sustained effort, not just initial enthusiasm. Anyone can be intense for a week. Character is revealed over time. Letting her earn her way back also protects your future self. You are not just evaluating whether she wants you, you are evaluating whether she is capable of sustaining a healthy relationship. Has she taken responsibility for her part? Has she grown emotionally? Has she addressed the behaviors that led to the breakup? These questions are answered through observation, not conversation. Time reveals truth. There's also an important psychological shift that occurs within her. When she has to invest effort to regain access to you, she values the relationship growth more deeply. Effort creates attachment. This is a fundamental principle of human behavior. People cherish what they work for. When she earns her way back, the relationship is no longer taken for granted. It becomes intentional. Letting her earn her way back does not mean you withhold affection or act cold. It means your affection is grounded and proportionate, warm but not overgiving, open but not attached. This balance creates safety and attraction simultaneously. She feels welcomed, but also aware that trust is being rebuilt, not assumed. Over time, if her effort remains consistent, respect is restored. Respect reignites attraction. Attraction supports intimacy. Intimacy depends connection. This sequence cannot be rushed. Skipping steps leads to collapse. By honoring the process, you create a foundation stronger than before. The relationship becomes a choice, not a habit. In many cases, something unexpected happens. As she works to earn her way back, she becomes more emotionally invested than she ever was before. Not because you demanded it, but because you allowed space for her to choose it. Choice is powerful. When a woman chooses you freely, without pressure or fear, her commitment is genuine. And if she does not rise to the occasion, you gain clarity without regret. You do not lose yourself trying to save something that cannot be rebuilt. You walk away knowing you honored your standards and protected your dignity. That alone is victory. Letting her earn her way back is not about control. It is about self-respect. It ensures that if she returns to a man who knows his value and a relationship built on mutual effort. That is what makes reconciliation real.